My parents forced me to watch my sister's sick dog with no food, no records, and no permission. When he almost died and I paid the $3,800 bill, they were still too busy posting vacation selfies. Can you imagine your own family, the people who are supposed to love and support you, seeing you as nothing more than a free service? That's exactly what my sister and parents did to me, until the day their blatant exploitation led to an animal's near death, and I finally decided enough was enough. So, there I was, Dr. Sophie Lane, just a regular morning at Willow Creek Veterinary Care. I was meticulously laying out sterile instruments for Charlie, a sweet chihuahua who was due for a neuter. You know, scalpel, hemostats, gauze, that rhythmic click-clack of steel against steel? It usually calms me. My assistant, Marlene, popped her head in, telling me Charlie's vitals were good and Mrs. Gable would be there at 10. Another peaceful day, right? I love those quiet moments before appointments, just me and the animals. They ground me. Then BM. The front door slammed so hard it practically rattled my teeth. The reception bell shrieked, totally ruining the calm. Sophie? There you are. It was Jess, my sister, her voice like a thunderclap. I froze, scalpel still in my hand. Marlene, bless her heart, cheerfully told them I was in the back. Next thing I know, heavy footsteps, multiple sets. The awful scraping sound of plastic carriers on my freshly sanitized floor. I barely ripped off my gloves before Jess burst into the prep room, my parents right behind her. All of them wearing sunglasses on their heads, like they were celebrities, not people about to dump their responsibilities on me. Dad was wrestling with 2 cat carriers, and Mom was tangled in leashes for 3 yapping dogs. Thank God you're here. Jess exclaimed, like she'd just stumbled upon me by chance, not, marched into my workplace unannounced. We need your help. My brain was still trying to process the chaos, but the words just came out. What's going on? Dad unceremoniously dropped the cat carriers on my sparkling floor, and 2 sets of furious feline eyes glared out from behind the grates. We're heading out. Mom chirped, finally untangling herself. Right now. Jess, ever so enthusiastic, chimed in road trip. 3 weeks. Cross country. The doctor says Mom needs to de-stress, so we're doing it. Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, the works. My mouth just opened and closed like a fish. And the animals? I finally managed. Jess beamed at me, like I'd just solved a puzzle. That's why we're here. You're a vet. You have the space. You need to watch them. I can't just. I started, but Dad cut me off, already backing toward the door. It's only for 3 weeks. You've watched them before. Oh, for a weekend, Dad, not 3 weeks, and not 5 animals. We didn't even have time to pack their food, Jess added, casually dropping her purse on my instrument table. But you know what they eat, right? And Buddy's been kinda lazy lately, but he's old, so. She shrugged. I looked at Buddy, her prized golden retriever, panting heavily. His coat looked dull, not like the shiny Instagram dog she always showed off. Jess, I can't just shut down my clinic for this. I pleaded. Mom just laughed, this brittle, awful sound. You're not shutting it down, Sophie. You're just accommodating family. Like always. And then, in perfect, rehearsed choreography, all 3 of them were moving towards the exit. A well-practiced escape. Wait. I cried, desperation clawing at my throat. You can't just leave them here. I have surgery scheduled. I need medical records, food instructions. Dad paused at the doorway, giving me that practiced look of confusion and hurt he always used. You're a vet, Sophie. Helping family is just what you do. It's not a big deal. Then, the front door slammed again. 60 seconds. That's all it took for them to arrive, drop 5 bewildered animals on my lap, and vanish. I was left standing there, shell-shocked, surrounded by 5 abandoned pets, as confused as I was. Just then, Mrs. Gable walked in, her eyes widening at the scene, 2 cats hissing from carriers, 3 dogs sprawled across my waiting room. Dr. Lane, she asked, her voice filled with concern. Is everything all right? Heat crawled up my neck. Mrs. Gable, I am so sorry. My family just dropped off their pets without warning. I'll get them situated before Charlie's procedure. She nodded, but her expression said it all. Unprofessional. This is a clinic, not a kennel. I ushered her to a seat, but the humiliation burned. This wasn't some spontaneous emergency. The matching luggage, the coordinated exit, they planned this ambush. Memories rushed back, bitter as bile. 2 a.m. calls about Jess's cat eating expensive cheese, Dad demanding I trim his dog's nails on Sundays, Mom expecting free vaccines while my own business was struggling to make rent. And Jess's social media posts. My personal vet sister, she'd caption her pictures, building her pet influencer empire on my unpaid expertise. My phone pinged. A text from Jess. A selfie from the highway. All 3 of them in sunglasses. Thanks, sis. You're the best. XO, my hands trembled. Not with anxiety, but with something cold and sharp. Rage. That afternoon after Mrs. Gable left, I snapped a photo of the 5 forlorn animals in their carriers. Evidence. Then I opened my accounting software. My fingers moved mechanically, creating a new invoice. Emergency boarding. 3 weeks. 5 animals. No notice. Total. $3,150. I attached it to an email, sending it to Jess and my parents. Subject line. Payment due upon return. Send. My phone stayed silent. No immediate response. But something had shifted, not just in them, but in me. This was just the beginning. 3 weeks. 3 weeks of waking up to a constant chorus of barks, whines, and hisses disrupting my clinic's normal rhythm. My phone vibrated. Another client cancellation. Sorry, Dr. Lane, but the barking stressed out my cat last visit. Found another vet. That was the 4th this week. Marlene had tried her best, but Willow Creek Veterinary Care was never designed to be a boarding facility. We just didn't have the space. I swiped to my email for the 100th time. The invoice I'd sent? Still unread. Not a single response. When I'd texted about their return plans, I got the dreaded read receipt, then silence. Today marked 3 weeks exactly. They were supposed to be home. I needed my life back. I called Jess. Straight to voicemail. My parents. Same. My fingers hovered over the screen. Then I typed, "You were supposed to be back today. Where are you?" The message status changed from delivered to read. Still nothing. The clinic clock ticked toward noon when my phone finally buzzed. My stomach tightened as Jess's name flashed across the screen. The message loaded with a photo, Mom, Dad, and Jess, grinning in front of Old Faithful, sunglasses perched on their heads, the exact same pose as when they dumped the animals. We're in Yellowstone. Having so much fun, we decided to add 3 more weeks. Watch them for us. Love you. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering onto the treatment table. 3 more weeks? That's 6 weeks total. 6 weeks of canceled appointments. 6 weeks of trying to care for other people's pets in a clinic already stretched thin. 6 weeks of being treated like a free kennel service. Marlene poked her head in. Dr. Lane? Mrs. Gable called to reschedule Charlie's follow-up. She mentioned the noise. I just nodded, a knot in my throat. That's $4,000 in canceled appointments this month. For $1,000, my small practice absolutely could not afford to lose. Marlene looked at me with concern, like she wanted to say something, but held back. Later that evening, after Marlene left, I sat alone in my office. The building was quiet, save for an occasional whimper from the makeshift kennel. I pulled up my accounting software. Red numbers glared back at me everywhere. Bills for medical supplies, vaccines, equipment leases. Then I toggled to my personal account. Rent due. Car payment overdue. Student loans in forbearance for the 3rd time. On my desk was a framed photo from my vet school graduation. Dad with his arm around me, Mom beaming, Jess flashing a peace sign. The day I became Dr. Sophie Lane. The day I thought I'd earned their respect. The memory surfaced again, Dad handing me his dog's leash at Thanksgiving. Just a quick nail trim, Sophie. You're a vet. What's the big deal? Mom chiming in, your sister needs you. That's what family does. Family. The word felt hollow in my chest. I pulled up my text history. 5 years of messages from Jess. SOS. Mittens ate way too much pate. Throwing up. Call me. Need you to watch the dogs this weekend. Emergency. Can you meet me at the clinic Sunday? Just need quick shots for the new kitten. Not once had she paid a bill. Not once had she scheduled a proper appointment. Not once had she treated me like a professional instead of a convenient resource. I checked Instagram. Jess had already posted from Yellowstone. A carousel of vacation photos, ending with one of her in a hotel bed. The caption, taking this much-needed break while my personal vet sister at Sophie Lane Vet Care watches my fur babies. Hashtag blessed, hashtag family, hashtag pet influencer. 16,000 likes. My stomach churned as the realization dawned, clear and cold. This wasn't helping family. This was exploitation. And I am a professional. The next morning, Dr. Miller, another local vet who sometimes covered for me, stopped by for supplies. He paused, seeing the animals crammed into my waiting room. "Sophie," he said, his voice quiet. "This isn't right. They're taking advantage of you." I rubbed my temples, exhaustion weighing down my shoulders. What choice do I have? They're family. He hesitated. Family doesn't treat family like unpaid help. Then he added, "My cousin works in animal law. You should at least know your rights." That seed planted itself firmly in my mind. Rights. Laws. Boundaries. That night, I made the call I'd been dreading. My mother answered on the fourth ring. "Sophie, we're having the most wonderful time. Your father found this charming little. You have to come get them." I interrupted, my voice steadier than I felt. "This is 3 weeks. I'm running a business." The line went quiet. Then she laughed, a sound like glass breaking. "Oh, don't be so dramatic, Sophie. They're fine. You're a vet. What's the big deal? Your sister needs this break. My clinic is not a kennel. I've lost clients. I can't. We'll talk about this when we get back," she cut in. "I need to go. Your father's waiting for dinner." The line went dead. I stood in the silent clinic, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. The animals stirred in their kennels at the sound of my breathing. My stand was ignored, dismissed with the casual cruelty of someone who knew I wouldn't fight back, who knew I'd keep feeding them, giving them water, cleaning their cages. But something had shifted. The woman who meekly accepted her family's demands was gone. In her place stood Dr. Sophie Lane, DVM, a professional who understood that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is draw a line. And I knew exactly where that line needed to be. Social media notifications chimed from my phone, another flood of vacation photos. I swiped them away without looking. For weeks into this nightmare, and my family's digital postcards had transformed from irritating to infuriating. The latest Instagram post showed them posing near Old Faithful, my sister's blonde hair whipping in the Wyoming wind, perfect white teeth gleaming. They smiled while I drowned. "Dr. Lane." Marlene appeared in my office doorway, concern etched across her face. "Mr. Peterson called to reschedule his terrier's dental cleaning. 3rd cancellation today." I nodded, scribbling a note on my already chaotic calendar. The makeshift kennels had turned my waiting room into an unlicensed boarding facility. The Barcaul Symphony started precisely at 7 each morning, continuing until I shut down at 6. Clients noticed. My appointment book thinned by the day. "Any word from your sister?" Marlene asked carefully. "Nothing new," I said, closing my laptop, rubbing my temples. "Just more vacation photos." Their silence was calculated. They knew I wouldn't abandon the animals. They were calling my bluff, waiting for me to cave, to accept this imposition with the same resigned smile I'd worn my entire life. I checked my watch, almost closing time. I gathered the evening medication trays, preparing for final rounds. The small dogs and cats ate quickly, but Buddy, Jess's prized golden retriever, hadn't touched his dinner for 2 days. His water dish remained full. "Come on, boy," I coaxed, kneeling beside him. His amber eyes looked dull, unfocused. When I stroked his flank, his fur felt different, slightly matted, despite Marlene's daily brushing. Jess always joked about Buddy being lazy, showing videos of him sleeping through her attempts to create viral content. "Such a boring dog," she'd laugh. But his face is Instagram gold. Now, as I examined him more carefully, professional alarm bells rang. His gums were pale, his breathing slightly labored. I checked his chart, 10 years old, well into senior territory for his breed. No medical history on file, because Jess never bothered to provide one. "We'll keep an eye on you tonight," I told him, making a note to recheck before I locked up. After closing, I spent an extra hour deep cleaning kennels, hoping physical labor might burn off some anger. I was wiping down the reception counter when a thud, followed by a frantic whimper, erupted from the back. I ran to the kennel room and found Buddy collapsed on his side, panting heavily, eyes wide with panic. "No, no, no," I murmured, dropping to my knees. Clinical training engaged instantly. Temperature elevated, pulse rapid and weak, abdomen tender. He whimpered when I pressed gently. I grabbed my phone, fingers trembling as I punched in Dr. Wallace's number. She ran the specialty vet hospital across town. "Susan? It's Sophie Lane. I need emergency ultrasound access, possible kidney failure in a 10-year-old golden." 20 minutes later, I was following Susan's headlights through empty streets, Buddy whimpering softly in my back seat, wrapped in a clinic blanket. His large body trembled against me each time I reached back to reassure him. The emergency hospital blazed with harsh fluorescent light. Susan met me at the door, helping transfer Buddy to a waiting gurney. Her team sprang into action. 4-line, blood draw, temperature check. The familiar medical choreography that normally calmed me failed to quiet the rage building in my chest. "How long has he been showing symptoms?" Susan asked, drawing blood. "I don't know. His owner dropped him with me a month ago, said he was just lazy." The words tasted bitter. Susan's expression shifted from professional concern to something harder. "Family? My sister." She nodded once, understanding everything in those 2 words. 3 hours of tests confirmed my fears: advanced kidney disease, severely dehydrated, creatinine levels dangerously elevated. This wasn't something that developed overnight. This had been building for months, possibly a year. All those times Jess joked about him being lazy? He wasn't lazy. He was sick. He needs immediate fluid therapy, medication, special diet, Susan said, reviewing the ultrasound. "We can stabilize him tonight, but he'll need ongoing care." I nodded mechanically as she outlined the treatment plan. When she handed me the estimate, the numbers swam before my eyes. $3,800. "I can put down a deposit from my savings," I heard myself say. "Start treatment right away." Back in my car at 2 a.m., exhaustion crashed over me. I dialed Jess's number, unsurprised when it went straight to voicemail. "Jess, it's Sophie." My voice sounded strange, tight, controlled, unfamiliar. Buddy collapsed. He's at the emergency hospital with kidney failure. I just paid $3,800 to save his life. "You need to call me back. This is not a joke. You ignored this." I followed with a text containing the same information, attaching a photo of the invoice. The message showed as delivered, then read almost immediately. Then nothing. No typing bubble. No callback. Just silence. I waited 15 minutes in the parking lot, staring at my phone. Nothing. She saw the message. She read the words kidney failure and $3,800. And she chose silence. By morning, no response from anyone in my family. I called Dr. Miller, who covered my appointments without hesitation. "Take the day, Sophie," he said. "This is a critical patient emergency." When I returned to the specialty hospital, Susan walked me through Buddy's condition. He looked marginally better. The 4 fluids were helping. "You did the right thing," Susan said, reviewing his chart. "This dog has been neglected. You need to document everything." The word neglected struck me like a physical blow. This wasn't just an inconvenience anymore. This wasn't just family taking advantage. This was criminal neglect. I drove home in a fog, showered mechanically, and collapsed into bed. When I woke 3 hours later, my phone showed no missed calls from family. Just a new Instagram post. Jess at a roadside diner, caption reading, "Best pancakes in Wyoming." #blessed road trip. Something shifted inside me, my anger cooling into something harder, more crystalline. I opened my laptop and searched, Oregon pet abandonment laws. The results loaded instantly. ORS 87.159, animal abandonment, possessor a lien. I read the statute 3 times, making notes. The law required a 14-day notice period after formal abandonment notification. After that, legal ownership transferred. I started gathering documentation, screenshots of the original 3-week texts, the extension message, the emergency hospital invoice, the read receipts on my desperate messages about Buddy. I spent the afternoon creating a detailed timeline, printing everything. When finished, I had a 1-inch stack of papers documenting 6 weeks of planned, calculated abandonment, culminating in willful ignorance of a medical emergency. My phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. Dr. Lane speaking. This is Martin Reynolds, attorney at law. Dr. Miller suggested you might need some guidance on an animal abandonment case. I exhaled slowly. Yes, I do. The next morning, I stood at the post office counter, holding a thick envelope addressed to my parents' home. Inside, the formal abandonment notice outlining the medical emergency, the ignored communications, and the 14-day deadline before ownership legally transferred. All notarized, all documented, all irrefutable. Immediately after sending the letter, I took photos of it, the $3,800 invoice, and the post office receipt. I sent all of these pictures to Jess and my parents via email and text message. But just like every other time, no one responded. The 14-day waiting period stretched before me like a tightrope. 14 days of caring for animals that weren't mine. 14 days of administering Buddy's expensive kidney medication. 14 days of documenting every single expense in meticulous detail. 14 days of silence. My fingers hovered over my phone, the urge to call them crawling up my arm like a persistent itch. I set the device down and returned to my paperwork instead. The certified letter I sent had been marked delivered. Someone, a neighbor, the mail carrier, had signed for it at my parents' house 3 days ago. The clock was ticking. The morning sun filtered through the blinds of the clinic, casting the same rectangles across the linoleum that were there the day they ambushed me. 52 days ago. I checked Buddy's chart, noting his improved blood work values. The kidney medication was working, despite how late we caught the disease. How's our golden boy doing today? Marlene asked, leaning against my office door frame, her gray hair in its usual practical bun, her scrubs dotted with cartoon dogs. Better. His creatinine levels are stabilizing. I closed the folder. Did Mrs. Peterson call about her appointment? Rescheduled for next Tuesday. Marlene lingered, her eyes fixed on the calendar where I'd marked day 10 of the waiting period in red pen. Have you heard anything from them? The question knotted my stomach. No. Are you going to call them? Before the deadline. The question had plagued me for days. Would a final warning be the right thing to do? The professional thing? The thought tasted bitter, like the medicine I'd been forcing down Buddy's throat twice a day. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me thinks I should. Marlene's expression hardened. Did the letter state the consequences, Dr. Lane? Yes. The certified letter had been painfully clear. My attorney had made sure of that. Then you've done your part. Marlene straightened, smoothing her scrubs. They are adults. This is their choice. The simplicity of her statement loosened something in my chest. They are adults. This is their choice. Their choice to dump 5 animals on me without warning. Their choice to extend their vacation without permission. Their choice to ignore Buddy's medical emergency. Their choice to ignore a legal notice. You're right. Marlene nodded once, satisfied, and returned to reception. I fed the animals lunch, refilled water bowls, administered medications. Each action documented in my logbook with the same precision I used for surgical records: time, date, expense, observation. I had become a clinical observer of their abandonment. The 2 cats, Percy and Marlene, had adapted best. They lounged in the kennels I'd expanded with climbing perches, watching me with that particular feline indifference that suggested I existed solely to serve them. The terrier mixes, Pepper and Salt, still barked frantically whenever the door opened, expecting Jess or my parents. Buddy no longer did. He watched the door with liquid brown eyes, but had stopped struggling to his feet at every sound. His resignation felt like betrayal on their behalf. For more days passed. I was in my apartment above the clinic when my phone chimed with a text from Jess. My heart leaped, then plummeted when I saw it wasn't about the animals. It was another vacation photo, my sister in a sun hat, standing before the Grand Teton, captioned, "Best day ever." #blessed. I threw the phone onto my couch. Their silence was their counterattack. They believed I was bluffing. They knew I was a caretaker at heart. They were still enjoying their power, assuming I'd break first. That I'd just absorbed the $3,800 medical bill, like I'd absorbed everything else. In Jess's mind, I would never actually do anything. I love these animals too much. I'd take care of them, just like always. Day 14 arrived with the same morning light. The same rectangles across the floor. I performed surgeries. I saw clients. I cared for the animals. Buddy's medication cost $174 per week. I documented it. At 4:30 p.m., I looked at the clock. 30 minutes until the legal deadline. Dr. Miller came in at 4:45, coffee mug in hand. He set a cup on my desk without comment. The gesture spoke volumes. "Any word?" he asked. I shook my head. "What will you do? If no one shows up?" "Follow the law." My voice sounded calmer than I expected. "I've already contacted Portland Animal Rescue Alliance. Kate knows the situation." Dr. Miller nodded, understanding the significance. Kate's organization was known for their rigorous adoption screening. They didn't place animals with just anyone. "You've given them every chance," he said. "I know." The minute hand ticked forward. Outside, rain had started to fall, tapping against the windows like impatient fingers. At 5 p.m. precisely, I closed the logbook. No calls, no emails. No one at the door. The legal deadline had arrived. They officially, legally, did not want their animals. My hand didn't shake when I picked up the phone. The number was already programmed into my contacts. "Kate? It's Sophie Lane." My voice echoed in the quiet office. "I have 5 legal surrenders for you. The paperwork is all here." Through the line, Kate's voice was professional, empathetic. "I'll be there first thing tomorrow, Sophie." I hung up and sat in the silence of my office. The only sounds were Pepper's occasional whine and the rain against the windows. Their overconfidence, their absolute certainty in my fatal flaw, had become their legal undoing. Their failure to respond was the entire case. "Do you want me to stay, doctor?" Miller asked from the doorway. "No." I looked up at him. "Thank you. I'm fine." And strangely, I was. The anger that had been burning in my chest for weeks had crystallized into something harder, clearer. I was no longer waiting for their response, their permission, their acknowledgement. For the first time since they walked into my clinic 7 weeks ago, I wasn't reacting to them. I was acting on my own. I checked on the animals one final time before locking up. Tomorrow, they'd start new lives with people who actually wanted them. People who wouldn't treat them as accessories, as afterthoughts, as burdens to be dumped when inconvenient. Buddy looked up at me, thumping his tail weakly against the blanket I'd placed in his kennel. I scratched behind his ears. "You'll be okay," I told him. And this time I knew it was true. The rain had stopped by the time I left. Water glistened on the parking lot asphalt, reflecting the neon sign of my clinic. Willow Creek Veterinary Care glowed steadily in the growing darkness, marking the boundary between my professional space and the world outside. I had defended that boundary at last. Whatever came tomorrow, I had done what needed to be done. Not out of anger. Not out of revenge. Out of respect. For myself. For these animals. For the law. I drove home in silence, the windows open to the damp spring air, feeling strangely light. The weight of waiting had finally lifted. I watched Kate from Portland Animal Rescue Alliance kneel beside Buddy, her practiced hands moving gently across his thinning coat. The morning sunlight caught in his amber eyes as he leaned into her touch. "His medication schedule is in the folder," I explained, handing over the thick manila envelope. "The kidney disease is advanced. He'll need the phosphate binders with every meal." Kate flipped through the documentation, the certified mail receipt, the text messages, the $3,800 emergency vet bill, her expression hardening with each page. "Sophie," she whispered, looking up at me. "They never responded to any of this?" I shook my head. "Not a word." She closed the folder with a decisive snap. "You saved this dog's life. We'll find them all perfect homes. Especially Buddy. I know a retired couple who specialize in senior pets with medical needs. Will they stay together? I asked, meaning the dogs. We'll try. But honestly, separating them might be better for Buddy. He needs specialized care. I knelt beside the golden retriever, running my fingers through his fur one last time. My throat tightened. For years, I'd treated him for free while Jess posted his photos for likes and online sales. I'm sorry, old friend, I murmured. Kate touched my shoulder. Don't apologize. You're doing the right thing. This isn't abandonment. It's a rescue. I nodded, signing the surrender papers with a steady hand. The weight lifted from my shoulders with each signature. By the time Kate loaded the carriers into her van, I felt lighter than I had in years. The following week passed in blessed quiet. My clinic returned to normal operation. I slept through the night without checking kennels or administering midnight medications. Mrs. Gable commented on how rested I looked when she brought Charlie for his follow-up. Then, the bell above the door jingled. I looked up from my charts to see Jess burst into the waiting room, our parents trailing behind her. All three wore matching tans and tourist t-shirts from Yellowstone. Sophie, Jess called, her voice bright with entitlement. We're back. Where are my babies? The same question she texted before disappearing for 7 weeks. Before ignoring Buddy's medical crisis. Before leaving me with the bill. My mother glanced around the empty reception area, frowning. Are they in the back? They must be so excited we're home. I set down my pen and stood, wiping my hands carefully on a towel. The calm that filled me was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Not numbness, but clarity. I studied their expectant faces, seeing for the first time how they'd always viewed me, not as a person, but as a service. They're not here, I said. Jess's smile faltered. What do you mean, not here? Are they at your apartment? No. My father stepped forward, his brow furrowing. Sophie, stop being difficult. Where are the animals? I walked to my desk and removed a single envelope from the top drawer. My hand didn't tremble as I held it out to Jess. What's this? She snatched it, tearing it open. I watched her face transform as she pulled out the contents. The 3-week extension text, the $3,800 emergency vet bill, the certified mail receipt, and the business card for Portland Animal Rescue Alliance. What did you do? Her voice rose to a shriek. My mother grabbed the papers, eyes widening as she scanned them. You gave away our pets. How could you do this to your family? My father's face darkened to a dangerous red. This is unforgivable, Sophie. You had no right. I had every legal right, I interrupted, my voice steady and professional. I sent a certified letter and an email explaining the situation after Buddy's medical emergency. You were given 14 days to respond, per Oregon state law. You chose not to. At that point, legal ownership was forfeited. But we were on vacation. Jess wailed. A vacation you extended to 7 weeks without my consent, while dumping 5 animals in my clinic without food, supplies, or medical records. We'll go get them right now, my father declared, turning toward the door. Good. Luck with that, I said. The cats are still at the rescue. The dogs were adopted yesterday. Jess froze. What? All 3 dogs were adopted together by a family experienced in senior kidney care. Buddy will finally get the treatment he needs. Buddy? My mother's voice wavered. What's wrong with Buddy? Chronic kidney disease. That laziness Jess always joked about? It was organ failure. He collapsed in the middle of the night 6 weeks ago. I paid $3,800 to save his life while Jess was posting vacation selfies. Jess's face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes. You should have called. I did. You read my text and ignored it. I didn't think it was that serious. Because you never think, Jess. You never have to. Sophie will handle it. Sophie will fix it. Sophie will pay for it. My voice remained calm, despite the fire in my chest. Not anymore. I am no longer the 24/7 on-call vet for people who don't care if their own pets live or die. My clinic is not a free kennel. If you want your pets back, you can apply to adopt them like everyone else. This is how you treat family? My father gestured wildly. After everything we've done for you? I met his gaze. Everything you've done? Dad, I've provided thousands of dollars in free veterinary care while struggling to make rent. You've taken and taken until there was nothing left. Then demanded more. The three of them stood frozen, mouths agape. I'd never spoken to them this way. Not as their daughter, their sister, their Sophie, but as Dr. Lane. A professional with boundaries. Get out of my clinic. I turned back to my paperwork. I have paying clients to attend to. My mother recovered first, drawing herself up with wounded dignity. Come on. We're going to that rescue center right now. They'll understand when we explain what she did. The doors slammed behind them. The reception bell jingled with finality. I sank into my chair, exhaling slowly. The clinic felt different now. Cleaner. Lighter. Mine. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel the crushing weight of guilt. I didn't feel the need to apologize for enforcing a boundary. I felt free. The next morning, I unlocked the clinic doors with a lightness I hadn't felt in years. The familiar scent of antiseptic greeted me, but something had changed. The kennels stood empty in the back room. No barking. No whining. No constant reminder of my family's exploitation. I paused at the reception desk, running my finger across the polished surface. Marlene glanced up from her computer. Morning, Dr. Lane. Mrs. Gable called to confirm Charlie's follow-up at 10. Perfect. I hung my coat and checked the appointment schedule. A full day of patients who actually wanted to be here, whose owners respected my time and expertise. When Mrs. Gable arrived with Charlie tucked under her arm, she paused in the doorway, her head tilting slightly. It seems so peaceful in here today, Dr. Lane. I smiled, feeling the truth of her words settle into my bones. It is, Mrs. Gable. It really is. After examining Charlie's incision, perfect, and running through his vitals, I had 10 minutes before the next appointment. I made a cup of tea and actually got to drink it while it was still hot. A small miracle. 2 weeks passed in this blessed calm. Then Marlene buzzed from the front desk. Dr. Lane? Your sister's here. My stomach tightened, but I took a deep breath. Send her back. Jess appeared in the doorway of my office, looking smaller somehow. Her makeup was minimal, her designer clothes replaced by jeans and a plain sweater. The Instagram influencer polish had faded. Hi, she said, her voice lacking its usual demanding edge. I gestured to the chair opposite my desk. How did it go at the rescue? She sat, her shoulders curving forward. They told me the dogs are gone, all three, adopted together. Her voice caught. They said a family with experience in kidney disease wanted them. That buddy needed specialized care. I nodded. Kate called me. They're good people, a retired veterinary technician and her husband. They've dealt with kidney disease in their previous dogs. I didn't know, Jess whispered, staring at her hands. About Buddy. I mean, I knew he was slowing down, but I thought. She stopped, swallowed hard. I thought he was just getting old. He was sick for a long time, Jess. A tear slid down her cheek. The rescue let me adopt the cats. I had to take a pet ownership course first. For weeks of classes. She placed an envelope on my desk. This is for the adoption fees. I paid them. I stared at the envelope, remembering countless invoices ignored, texts unread, calls sent to voicemail. This small act of responsibility felt momentous. I'm enrolled in another course, too, she said, looking up, finally. The instructor said Buddy's symptoms were textbook kidney failure. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. They're nice, right? The people who took him. Her voice trembled. Do they let him sleep on the bed? They're wonderful, I said, softening slightly. They sent me a picture. He has his own heating blanket. The warmth helps with the joint pain. Jess nodded, tears spilling over. I never understood. Love has to come with responsibility. Yes, I said quietly. Just like family has to come with respect. She wiped her eyes, nodded again. Then she stood, straightened her shoulders. I should go. The cats need feeding on a schedule now. After she left, I finished my patient notes, cleaned the exam room, and checked on our overnight boarders, all paying clients with signed contracts. At closing time, I turned off the lights and locked the door, pausing to look up at the neon sign that reads, Willow Creek Veterinary Care. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my mother. Your sister is very upset. I think you were too hard on them. I looked at the message for a long moment. Then I switched my phone off and slid it back into my pocket. The November air carried a hint of frost as I walked to my car. For the first time in years, I was heading home to a quiet apartment where no one would call at midnight about a dog who ate chocolate, or expect free vaccines, or demand my expertise without acknowledgement. I drove away from the clinic, leaving the weight of guilt and obligation behind, finally at peace.